It's time for Recipe of the Day. I live in Florida, which means it is always grilling season. I know that is not the case for all of you, although I will say I have some friends up in Canada who keep their grill brushed off of snow and the path to their grill available all year long so they can grill all the time. So if you live somewhere warm like me, or if you've got a pathway to your grill, I have an amazing recipe for you today for grilled carne asada. Now, if you do not have this grill option available and you still want these like bright, fresh grilling kinds of flavors, I'm not really going to be talking about that today, but I am going to link to how to cook the carne asada on like a stovetop in a cast iron skillet for doing like weeknight tacos. So I will link to that recipe for you so you have that option. Now, I've been making carne asada for years, and the recipe that I used to turn to was the one on Serious Eats. It's a great recipe, but over the years of making it, I have started simplifying it and changing it to suit my kitchen and the kinds of things that I tend to have and tend to do. And so I am sharing this simplified recipe with you. The other thing that I've changed, and I just think this is spectacular, is that what they do on Serious Eats is they make a marinade for the steak, and then they divide it in half. Half of it gets used as the marinade for the steak. The other half they use as like a sauce for the steak. I have found that sauce to be just a little bit too potent for me. And so what I've done is I've mixed it with some sour cream, and you get the most delicious crema. It is so good. Drizzle that into tacos with your sliced skirt steak, and you're not going to believe how delicious that is. Okay, so that is the basic idea behind this recipe. Now I'm going to tell you how to make it. We're using 1 2-pound skirt steak, but you can use more if you want to, and you can use flank steak or chuck eye steaks are going to work here too. What you're going to do is you're going to take that long piece of skirt steak and cut it into 4 or 5 inch pieces, cutting along the grain. We're just making sections that are more manageable to like flip and deal with on the grill. Okay. Put those into a big zipper bag. So like a zip top gallon size bag, set that aside for a bit. And then we're going to make that marinade / crema sauce base, right? So the big powerhouse flavor punch of this sauce is coming from a can of chipotles and adobo. And this is one of the big simplifications that I've made over the Serious Eats recipe. That one has, you have a variety of different kinds of peppers that you roast yourself, and they're delicious, but this is just much easier because you're just opening that can. And I love the canned chipotles. There is just so much rich, smoky flavor in there. I think you're going to really, really enjoy this. So we are pulling 5 of the peppers from that can and putting them into a blender or food processor. If that is the whole can, it might be, sometimes it is. Great. If not, you can always freeze whatever's left. Just put a little container. It stays good in the freezer for a long time, and then you can put it in other recipes. Okay, to that blender, you are adding the juice of 3 oranges, or you can go in with 3/4 of a cup of orange juice. There's about 1/4 of a cup of juice per orange. So that's how you know how much to do. And then you're doing the juice of 3 limes, or you can do 6 tablespoons of bottled lime juice, because there are 2 tablespoons of lime juice usually per lime. So either way, fresh or bottled. I will say that sometimes it makes a big difference whether the juices are fresh or not. You can really taste it. I haven't noticed the difference here. I've not done the side-by-side taste test, but I've made it many times with the fresh oranges and fresh limes, and I've made it many times with a jug of orange juice and usually like lemon juice from the fridge, because that's what I happen to have, and that has been good too. So either way, you're going to be great. Then you're doing 6 cloves of garlic peeled, 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, and 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. Go in with also a tablespoon of salt. You can tell how much powerful flavor there is in there, right? With the Worcester, the soy sauce, sugar, garlic, all of that in there. That is getting blended up until it makes like a sauce in your blender or food processor. And I will say here that the original recipe that I was riffing off of way back when had cilantro in here, but I don't put it in this marinade. Instead, I put it in that crema. So you really taste that bright, fresh cilantro in that finished crema, whereas it's kind of delicate. I don't think it really comes through in the marinade part. You see what I mean? Okay, so you've made that sauce in the blender, and then you're going to pour half of it over your steak pieces in that zip top bag. The other half is not going to touch the meat at all. That is just going into a bowl or container, and that is going into the fridge until later. That's the stuff we're going to be mixing with the sour cream, right? Okay, then you're going to zip up that bag of steaks. Try to get as much air out of there as you can. Kind of massage it all around to make sure everything is really coated. And then that's being refrigerated for at least 3 hours or overnight. But we have done the testing on this one and have found that 3 to 4 hours does the most to really, really penetrate with the flavor. After that, it doesn't really seem to make a difference in this recipe. So more is not better. 3 hours is fine. You're good to go. Okay, about an hour before you want to start grilling, take the steak from the refrigerator. That is supposed to make it cook a little bit more evenly, but I will tell you that I often forget and it goes straight to the grill, and I'm not sure it really makes that big of a difference. So if you remember, take it out. If you don't remember, don't worry about it. While that is coming to temperature, you can get all of your ingredients ready for whatever you're serving your carne asada with. So you can make that chipotle crema. You're going to do that by stirring that half of marinade that didn't touch the meat at all, that's just been sitting in the fridge there. You're stirring that with a 16-ounce container of sour cream. Give that a taste and add more salt if you want. And you can also add in a 1/4 cup of chopped fresh cilantro to that. Then put that back in the fridge to just let those flavors really meld and settle together while we're getting that steak cooked and getting your other toppings ready. And then, if you're doing tacos, if you're doing burritos, if you're doing a steak salad, whatever else you need to have that dinner going, get that ready. And then we're going to cook the steak. We're going to get a gas or charcoal grill over high heat. We want nice high heat direct cooking for this. Once it's ready, you're going to squeeze off any of the excess marinade from the steaks. Because there is some sugar in there, it can burn on the grill. So you just want to get off as much as you can squeeze off. But the little bit that's still clinging to the meat, that is fine. And I'll say that if you were going to cook this in a cast iron skillet on your stove, you totally can do that. You would also try and get as much of that marinade off as you can. And then you're cooking that over high heat in that skillet as well. So same deal. And I wouldn't go transferring it to the oven or anything like that. Just keep it over that high heat, flipping it every now and then on your skillet. That's going to be great. It's going to be about 3 to 4 minutes per side in the skillet or on that high grill if you want it to be about a medium rare. You can use an instant read thermometer. You're going to be taking it off the heat when it's at 125 degrees Fahrenheit if you want it medium rare, and then it will raise up to the 130 to 140 that is a medium rare temperature. If you like your steak more well done than that, you can leave it on for longer. I will just say this one thing about skirt steak that I really love for my family, flank is like this as well, is that it tends to be an uneven thickness. So I like my steak more of a medium, and Marty likes his more medium well, so do the kids. So I can do my steak with the thickest part getting to kind of a medium, and then I know that those thinner parts are going to be nice and more medium well for them, and we're all going to be happy. And of course, skirt steak you're going to slice really thinly when you're ready to slice it, and so the well done steak still tastes really, really great as long as you slice it right, which I'm going to tell you about in just a second. So once your steak is to the temperature that you want, you transfer it to a cutting board, let it stand for 5 minutes. Then you are cutting it against the grain, and I have told you about this before when we've talked about skirt steak, and I have a video on my site showing this. I will link to my how to cook skirt steak recipe on Cook the Story, and you can scroll down and see that video, and that'll make it really clear if you don't really understand what I'm saying. The thing about skirt steak is that its grain runs differently than it does for a lot of other steaks. If you have a flank and you have it laying in front of you, kind of so that it's a long way in front of you, the grain is running from left to right, so that when you slice it, just making your slices going from, I guess I'm right-handed, so from the right to the left, those slices, you're going against the grain. With the skirt steak, if you have it running sort of long in front of you, its grain is actually going up and down. So then when you start slicing it from right to left, making those slices starting on the right and moving down the length of it towards the left, you're actually going with the grain. And when steak or any meat really is cut with the grain, you are leaving these long shreds that then your teeth have to chew. And when your teeth have to chew them, that gives you the perception of toughness. If you instead turn those pieces of steak so that you can slice them against the grain, you'll see that it's all kind of little bits that are kind of held together or pushed together. Now you don't have to do as much work when you're eating it, and that gives you that sensation of tenderness. So you definitely want to make sure that you are slicing it correctly. After it has rested, you're going to do that slicing, and then I keep the slices sort of together based on how done they are. So I have a big platter that I'm transferring those slices of steak to, and if they're more well done, I'll put them on one side. If they're less well done, I'll put them on the other side. And then once it's all sliced, you can get ready to serve it. However you're having it, just don't forget to have that chipotle crema with with it. It is the bomb. So good. Okay, I will put the link to this recipe in the show notes for this podcast episode, or you can head to cookthestory.com/ROTD and get it there. Everything there is arranged by date, so it's helpful to know that today is February 23rd of 2025. And I want to remind you that I have these really great mini cooking courses. They're free. You just get emails on the same topic for several days so that you can learn more about cooking, whichever course you've chosen. And it's all my tips and ideas and recipes. So if you enjoy this show, I'm positive you will enjoy those courses as well. Those are at cookthestory.com/courses. You can sign up for one. You can sign up for all of them. I know you're going to love them. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, and from this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great day. Let's get cooking.